Hey everybody, it's Sheriff. We're here again with another GLC review for the newest set, Destined Rivals this time. Today we're going to look at all the relevant cards in the set and rank them 1 to 5. Afterwards we'll take a look at my rankings of each type in the current meta, and I want to try something new where I've actually made my own tier list of each archetype and look at the archetypes that have benefited the most from this set. This is coming out a little later than I wanted, and I apologize, but it's just in time for GLC June. So let's get into it. First up is Shaman. Now, Shaman is a basic Pokemon that we are only using for its ability, which is Flower Curtain, where you prevent all damage done to your bench Pokemon that don't have a rule box by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. So it's basically bench barrier for grass. Now, we already had a bench barrier for grass with the Dung Beetle Pokemon, but it was on a stage 1, so that's super awkward to play just for bench barrier. But so having the Shaman be a basic is very, very nice, and you play a lot of stage 2s in grass typically, so your basics are typically very squishy. So having this to protect from spread and snipe is quite nice. So I'm gonna give Shaman a 4. Very solid for grass to have that. So next on our list is Lurantis, which is a stage 1, and for a single grass energy it does 130 damage, but you have to discard 2 basic grass energy cards from your hand. If you don't, this does nothing. So you're basically doing 130 for 3 energy, and you can't even like cheat this with Venusaur. So I think it's a little too pricey. It is interesting, as you only need a single attachment, but you would need that reoccurring getting your grass energy back from the discard. So I think it's a little awkward, so I'm going to give Lurantis a 2. The next thing is this Hydrapple, which is interesting. Stage 2, for a single energy, you have to discard 6 basic energy cards from your hand and knock out your opponent's active Pokemon. If you don't, this does nothing. So it's really the same vibes as the Lurantis, but you have to discard 6 basic energy from your hand. That's half of your energy in your entire deck, which is just ridiculous. So I'm gonna give Hydrapple a 1. This, yeah, you are maybe using this once and then you're never attacking again because all your energy is in your discard pile. So that's unfortunate. And that's all we have for grass. We're gonna move on to this Arcanine, which 3 energy or 2 with Charizard does 100 damage, and if your opponent's active Pokemon is a dark Pokemon, it does 200 damage. So if you're trying to do a meta call and you know your league plays a ton of dark and you want to play fire, then maybe you play this Arcanine to take care of their dark Pokemon. But most dark Pokemon are like decently squishy, except for like Guzzlord. In a traditional dark deck, so I think Arcanine is just, too situational, so Arcanine is going to get a 2. Next card, though, Rapidash. Stage 1, ability Hurried Gate, where once during your turn you get to draw a card. So, so we already had a similar ability like this with Salazzle, where you draw 3 cards, but you have to discard a fire energy to do this. And I actually think Rapidash is better than Salazzle, because with Salazzle, you have to have a fire energy to attach for turn, then you need a fire energy to use the ability, and it can put fire in a really awkward spot. But Rapidash, you don't have to discard anything, and you just get a draw card. And like, obviously, you are pairing this with Macargo with the smooth over ability, where you get to put whatever card you want from your deck on top of your deck, and then you just draw with Rapidash. So I actually think Rapidash is a great replacement to Salazzle. So Rapidash is going to get a 4 from me, just slightly boosting that consistency of fire. We then have Ethan's Typhlosion, where for a single energy Buddy Blast does 40 damage, and then it does 60 more damage for each Ethan's Adventure card in your discard pile. So you're doing 100 for 1 energy. Unfortunately, this is too weak, right? If you were able to put more Ethan's Adventure cards into your discard, then yeah, this would be way better, but we're playing GLC, so you only get 1. So you're doing 40 damage or 100 damage on a stage 2, which both are very weak and underwhelming. So Ethan's Typhlosion is going to get a 2 from me. Maybe even a 1. Ethan's Macargo is a little better, I think, where if it has no energy, it has no retreat, so that's nice. And you can search this with Heavy Ball. For 3 fire energy, and you can, pair this nicely with Charizard. Does 70 damage. You discard up to 5 energy from this Pokemon, and does 70 damage for each card you discarded in this way. So, with Charizard, you're actually only discarding 1 energy to do 140. So, I think Ethan's Macargo in a Charizard-based deck is actually pretty solid as an attacker. And you can play this Macargo and the other Macargo, because they have different names. So, pretty solid attacker. So, I'm going to give Macargo a 3. We then have the pride of the new fire cards, Blaziken. So stage 2, first attack, 2 energy, 70 damage, whatever. Second attack, 3 energy, does 120. You discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, and you also do 120 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So if this doesn't sound familiar, this is essentially Amazing Shot Raikou's attack, but way more balanced. But I mean, still 120 to the active, 120 to the benched is extremely strong. You pair this with other snipe cards like N-Star Manitan, and you've suddenly got a very good snipe fire list. So I think this guy adds significantly to that archetype, and I'm going to give Blaziken a 5 because that attack is just so powerful. And like I've said over the past couple sets, Fire Snipe has gotten more and more tools to use. So yes, very, very good. That's going to conclude Fire. Off to Water. First up is Misty's Starmie. For 1 energy, it does 60 damage. But if this evolved from Misty Staryu during this turn, it does 80 more damage. So 140 for a single energy, which is very, very nice. I think this fits pretty well into like Palitoad decks where they're not playing any energy accelerants. And like you could potentially even substitute this for like the Frostlass that a lot of people are using. Um, yeah, I just think this is a solid attacker. Doesn't need energy acceleration, just a single energy, powerful attack, and then um, I mean it's probably getting knocked out, but very solid for trading. So I'm gonna give Misty Starmie a 4, specifically for those water archetypes that are not playing their energy accelerants. We then have Cynthia's Milotic, which does 60 for 2, and it does 30 damage to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So in a water spread deck, I think Cynthia's Milotic is pretty solid. There's a Cloyster that has a similar attack, I believe. And I think it fits into that archetype. So I'm gonna give it a 3. It's pretty decent for spread. So if you get a couple of these attacks off, you're taking multiple prizes. So that is nice. We then have this Huntel with the ability Diver's Catch. When one of your water Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, you may put all basic water energy attached to that Pokemon into your hand instead of the discard. So it preserves your energy. I think it's a little awkward in some lists because if you look at your water attackers, you have, Wailord, which the whole point is to not get KO'd with Wailord. You have Kyogre, which already returns the energy to your hand. You have Veluza that moves your energy, and then you have that leaves you Wishy-Washy, which he's probably getting shuffled into the deck with the energy, and then you have Lapras, which works with this. So I think Huntel is slightly redundant for the most part. Maybe in special wells if you want to preserve that energy a little bit, but I think something like Starmie is probably just better, or just playing energy retrieval or something. So yeah, because this guy has to take up a bench space, and bench space in water is crucial. So I'm gonna give Huntel a 2, just a little too awkward and too situational. We have this Gorbis though, which is an interesting card. For a single energy, it does 30 times the amount of water energy attached to this Pokemon, but before doing damage, you can attach any number of basic energy cards from your hand to this Pokemon. So the attack accelerates the energy into play, and then you do damage, which is really cool. And it's nice in situations where you don't quite have your energy accelerant up and running, or if you're under a hex lock or something like that. So Gorbis is an interesting include. I'm gonna give it a 3. It is a solid attacker, but I think for the most part, your other options are just going to be just as good, if not better. So then we have this Floatzel, which has an attack Whirlpool for 2 energy. You do 30 damage, and then you discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. So it doesn't have to be a special energy. It's not on a coin flip. You just straight up discard an energy from their active. And maybe this is good in a water control or something. It can definitely slow your opponent down, especially if they don't have good energy accelerators. If they're a little slower, then this can be devastating. So I think Floatzel is interesting. So I'm going to give Floatzel a 3. And then its other attack, 3 energy for 140, is just totally fine. You're knocking out most basic attackers. So, yeah, he's fine. That's going to do it for water. We're going to move on to lightning with Ethan's Pichu. So for 0 energy, free cost, you do 30 damage, and then you get to draw a card. Keep in mind, Pichu also has free retreat, as it is one of the baby Pokemon. So some people are playing the Elekid, which I think is a solid option. And there are pros and cons to both of these cards, right? Elekid, you get to snipe whatever you want. Pichu can only hit the active, but you also get to draw a card for free, which is nice. So I think there's a debate for one or the other, or both if you are feeling so inclined. So Ethan's Pichu, I think, is a pretty solid starting mon. Keep in mind, you can also, like boost your damage with like a muscle band and electro power, and then suddenly you're hitting like 60 for free or 80 for free, and also drawing a card. So Ethan's Pichu is going to get a 3. We then have Team Rocket's Ampharos. So stage 2. Shout out to Forrest. Here's your shout out, Forrest, for your Ampharos. Has the ability Darkest Impulse, and whenever your opponent plays a Pokemon from their hand to evolve one of their Pokemon, put 4 damage counters on that Pokemon, which is just brutal. You get 40 free damage each time an opponent evolves. If they have a stage 2, then that's 80 free damage on the same Pokemon, which is wild, right? So, obviously this is a stage 2, which can be awkward in your lightning list because you're sprinting away all your resources with the Zebra most of the time. But you can play this with all your energy accelerants because it has a different name, so you can still play your Dynamotor Sheep and play this guy. And this guy can just sit on your bench, and then your spread damage with your lightning spread decks is just like even stronger. So I think this guy is quite strong if you can find the room and get him up and going early on. So I'm gonna give Ampharos a 4. Very, very solid and very dangerous for spread. That's all we have for that's all we have for lightning, actually. Next up, we're gonna go to Team Rocket's Hypno for 3 psychic energy on a stage 1. Does 80 damage. Your opponent flips a coin for each of their bench Pokemon, and this attack does 80 damage to their active for each Tails. It is not affected by weakness or resistance. So if they have a full bench, they're flipping 5 coins, and it does 80 times the amount of Tails. So more often than not, you're hitting 160 at least, which is, a magic number, and knocking out like every basic and like every support Pokemon out there, even stage 2s. So he's an interesting attacker, maybe in a stage 1 sort of psychic deck. He could be pretty solid. So, but he is reliant on your opponent filling their bench, and so if they're playing with like 3 bench Pokemon, this attack becomes a lot more sketchy. So I'm gonna give Hypno a 2. I think he's situational, and you'd rather just be attacking with other things like Iron Boulder or something. So yeah, a 2. Next we have Steven's Claydol. where stage 1 and 3 energy does 220 damage, and then you discard all energy from this Pokemon, which is okay because you have your Psychic Accelerants and you have Dimension Valley, right? So you could even do this 220 for 2 energy is like crazy, right? And this is nice because Psychic can really struggle to get over 200 damage. Usually it's peaking at like 170 with your Iron Boulder, right? Unless you've got some crazy stuff going on. So having the Claydol just there for huge bodies, right, I think is pretty solid. So I think this guy can also fit in maybe like a stage 1 deck. So I'm going to give Steven's Claydol a 3. Let's see. Then we have Steven's Carbink, which, as long as Pokemon is on the bench, all of your Steven's Pokemon take 30 less damage from attacks. Now, obviously, you are only using this with the Claydol, right? So it turns 120 HP essentially into 150, and there are other damage negation things for Steven Pokemon. So you could make Claydol pretty tanky with the Carbink, but you would only be playing the Carbink for the Claydol. If there were more Steven's Pokemon in Psychic, I think this would be way better. But as it stands, I think it's still, I think it's a little weak. So I'm gonna give Steven's Carbink a 2. And that is it for Psychic. We then have an Annihilate, which has the ability Lose Cool. If this Pokemon has 2 or more damage counters on it, its attacks do 120 more damage to the active Pokemon, which is super good. You can pair this in like an Earthquake deck where you're damaging yourself. And then your Impact Blow, 2 energy, you're doing 160, which is like already great, but with its ability, you're doing 280 for 2 energy, and now we're one-hit KOing stuff with like Lux Cape and whatnot. So those are like crazy numbers, right? Unless it's like a whale. So I think it's a solid, very, very solid attacker. I think there are other Annihilates that are probably just as good. So I'm going to give Annihilate a 3. I think it's just as good as other Annihilates. I think there's an argument for both. But yeah, he's a solid guy. We then have Team Rocket's Tyranitar. Now, at first glance, I thought this guy was going to be okay. You're never attacking with this guy, but he has the ability Sandstream. During Pokemon Checkup, if he is in the active, put 2 damage counters on each of your opponent's basic Pokemon. So, at first glance, this is like, okay. But then you start thinking about it, and you could just keep this guy on the bench, and then if one of your things gets knocked out, you promote him, and the order of operations, he is in the active during Pokemon Checkup, and which means you are damaging all of your opponent's basics. So that's super strong, actually. And then on like Hit and Run, Hitmonchan, like this guy can just spread a bunch of damage if you can get him out early, and you actually, it's a lot easier to get him out earlier than I initially thought because of this, his Pupitar, because it has the Explosive Ascension where you do 30 damage and then you just search your deck and evolve him, and he's immediately using his ability because you go into Pokemon Checkup when he evolves, and so really this is doing 30 damage to the active, and then 20 to all basics immediately. So T-Tar in the like Hitmon deck specifically is very, very strong. So I'm gonna give T-Tar a 4, potentially a 5. Yeah, he is very, very good. We then have this Mudsdale, which is interesting. Kind of, not really actually. It's a stage 1 with 150 HP, so decently bulky, but he also takes 30 less damage from attack, so essentially has 180 on a stage 1. That's pretty bulky, and then hitting 130 for 3 is like fine, it's whatever. 130 is like a magic number right now, but 3 energy is like a little expensive. You'd have to be playing this in like an energy accelerant fire list. But like decent bulky attacker, so I'm gonna give him a 3. And that'll do it for fighting. Next up we have Dark with Team Rocket's Arbok. And as long as he is in the active spot, your opponent cannot play any Pokemon that have an ability from their hand except Team Rocket's Pokemon. So very, very strong ability, just preventing your opponent from evolving into all of their support Pokemon. So really great that way. But then it has this attack for 3 Dark Energy. It does 30 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. So the idea is your opponent is locked out of evolving their support Pokemon, so they have all their squishy basics, and then this is just taking care of all of them at once before they can evolve. And you'll see here in a little bit with like Team Rocket's energy that this is very doable on like turn 2 even. So yeah, Arbok is crazy good. I think he adds a lot to the dark spread deck specifically. But you could totally play this in regular dark as well. He's very solid, very disruptive, kind of like the Galarian Weezing, where it just sits in the active and slows your opponent down while you set up. So quite strong. I'm gonna give Team Rocket's Arbok a 4. Very, very good. We then have Team Rocket's Nidoqueen, and it has the first attack for a single energy, 60 damage. But if you have a card with Nidoking in its name in play on your bench, right, this attack does 120 more. So 1 energy for 180 is very, very nice, very good. But if you don't meet this condition yet, its second attack, 130 for 2, is also totally fine. Very good. I think this fits in the Matriarchy deck. You can play Nidoqueen, Nidoking, and this Nidoqueen, so if you really want to. So solid attacker, I'm gonna give it a 3. Then we have this Sneasel, Team Rocket Sneasel. For 2 energy, this does 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon for each damage cutter on that Pokemon. So the idea is you are spreading damage with the regular Weavile or the Arbok, and then this guy can just like nuke something on the bench, right? And just take out threats that are waiting there or supports, right? So he's pretty good. I'm gonna give him a 3. Solid guy for the spread deck. Metal did not get much of anything. We do have the Steven Skarmory for 3 energy. It does 50 damage to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Or two of their Pokemon, which is fine. It's decent. If you can get this off a couple times, then maybe you're taking multiple KOs. I think this might be solid if there is a metal spread deck out there, but I have not ever seen that before, so I think this guy is a little too weak, too situational, needs more spread support in metal, so I'm going to give him a 2. Alright. Next, there's actually nothing worth it that we got from colorless for once, right? Because they always have the most broken cards, but nothing is great in the set, so good for all of you colorless haters. Shout out to Kevin, who says Snorlax is cringe. So we'll go to trainers next. We have Arven Sandwich, which you heal 30 from your active, or if they're Arven's Pokemon, heal 100. So maybe in an Arven deck, this could be good, but all the Arven cards I think are not relevant, so I'm going to give this a 2 for that. Cynthia's Power Weight. Your Cynthia's Pokemon get plus 70 HP, which is ridiculous on a tool. So your Cynthia's Milotic is suddenly huge. It's like a pseudo Luxcape, and they don't take 2 prizes, right? Unfortunately, all of the other Cynthia cards are best in Standard, so this isn't very applicable, but if we get more Cynthia's Pokemon, this is definitely going to be great. I'm going to give the Power Weight a 4, because this is just great on any Cynthia's Pokemon. So we have MC's Hype, which you draw 2 cards. If your opponent has 3 or fewer prize cards remaining, you draw 2 more cards. So this card is trash. It's so bad. Never play this card. This is a 1. So many other cards are better than this. Yeah. Reprint of Energy Recycler, if you're into that. There's Ethan's Adventure, where you search your deck for up to 3 in any combination of Ethan's Pokemon and basic fire energy cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, and then you shuffle. So, good for searching your Ethan's Pokemon. Yeah, I forgot to talk about this Ethan's Quilava, where you actually get to search for this Ethan's Adventure card. So there is that. So you get to search for the supporter with this guy, and then with the supporter you can get all your Ethan's Pokemon that you want, like your Macargo and whatnot. But that's very specific, and we already talked about how the Typhlosion isn't worth playing, so in an Ethan's deck, this is solid, I guess, a 3, but in other, I mean, it's probably a 2, just a little too situational, a little of underwhelming, not enough Ethan's Pokemon to get, but you do also get to search for basic fire energy cards, actually. Any combination. I did not read that. So that's actually way better to have that flexibility. So you can grab 1 or 2 Pokemon and then grab an energy if you need it. So that is good. So yeah, I'm going to give Ethan's Adventure a 3. We have a Granite Cave, which your Steven's Pokemon take 30 less damage from attacks. So paired with the Carbink, your Claydol is taking 60 less damage. With a Pot Helmet, it's taking 90 less damage. Now we're talking. Now he's a big boy. So, decent for Steven decks. So I'll give it a 3 for Steven. Reprint of Judge, reprint of Sacred Ash, Spikemuth Gym. Once during each player's turn, that player may search their deck for a Marnie's Pokemon, reveal it, put it into their hand. This would be great if any of Marnie's cards were not terrible, so I'm going to give Spikemuth Gym a 2. We have Team Rocket's Archer. You can only use it if a Team Rocket Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Each player shuffles their hand into their deck. You draw 5, they draw 3. I think you would just rather play Ace Trainer. Like, Ace Trainer is just better, right? In every way. Yeah, Ace Trainer is just better. And on those, knockout required supporters, you would much rather play Raihan or Teammates. So, yeah, I think this is a 2, just too situational and a little underwhelming. We have Team Rocket's Ariana, which says you draw cards until you have 5 cards in hand. If all of your Pokemon in play are Team Rocket's Pokemon, draw until you have 8 instead. In a Team Rocket focused deck, this is quite strong, but when are all of your Pokemon only Team Rocket? So I think this is a 2. I think it's just too situational. I don't think there's enough Team Rocket Pokemon in a single type to make this worth it. Team Rocket's Botherbot. You turn one of your opponent's face down prize cards face up, choose a random card from your opponent's hand, and then you switch those cards. You can have them switch them, so you get to choose. I don't think this is disruptive enough, and it can backfire, so I'm going to give this a 2. I think it's just too situational. We have Team Rocket's Factory. If you played a supporter card that has Team Rocket in its name, then you may draw 2 cards. So, it actually turns your Archer and Ariana into stronger cards. But on a stadium, way easier to counter. But I mean, free draw 2 is, pretty solid. So I'll give it a 3 if you're playing enough Pokemon. Team Rocket's Giovanni is another Guzma, but your active Pokemon has to be Team Rocket. So situational Guzma, but it's another Gust. Having access to another Gust is quite strong. So this only fits in some decks, but I'm going to give this a 4. Being able to have 2 Guzmas is very, very good. Team Rocket's Great Ball. You flip a coin. If heads, search your deck for an evolution Team Rocket's Pokemon and reveal it. If tails, search for a basic Team Rocket's Pokemon. So this is a conditional. What is that one card? The Aroma card or whatever. So this is terrible. I think you would just rather play the other card because it's the same thing. So this is a 2, just too situational. We have Team Rocket's Petrol. Search your deck for a trainer card, reveal it, put it in your hand. This is literally Skyla, and no one's playing Skyla. I think Petrol is a 1. I guess paired with your factory, you get to search for a trainer and then you draw two. So in that situation, this is better than Skyla, but whatever. It's still bad. Team Rocket's Proton. If you go first, you can use this during your first turn. Search your deck for up to 3 basic Team Rocket Pokemon and put them in your hand if you're playing with a lot of Team Rocket cards. I've said that a lot. Holy cow. Then this is pretty great. So, yeah, solid for setting up. So I'm going to give Proton a 3. We have Team Rocket's Transceiver. Search your deck for a supporter card that has Team Rocket in its name. Reveal it, put it in your hand. So actually pairs pretty well with Proton. You have 2 ways to get it your first turn. So that's interesting. So if you're playing a lot of these Team Rocket supporters, this card is phenomenal. I'll give it a 4. Very strong, but you have to be playing those Team Rocket supporters, which are overall a little underwhelming. So we have Team Rocket's Venture Bomb. Flip a coin. If heads, put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. If tails, you put it on your active Pokemon. High risk, high reward. I don't think this is worth it. So I'm... I don't know. I think it's a 2. I think it's just too situational. But we then have the best Team Rockets card in Team Rocket's Watchtower, where colorless Pokemon in play have no abilities. And this is ridiculous, right? If you are very worried about that colorless matchup, everyone at your league is playing colorless, slap this in your deck as just a tech, and, let them play out their stadiums. You play this, and suddenly only your opponent is hexed for the rest of the game. Even if this just sticks for a couple turns, this is so strong, right? And at least this thing is bumping your opponent's stadium, right? So especially in decks that really don't rely on stadiums very much, this is very good and just such a strong counter to colorless, which is one of the best types in the format. So I'm gonna give Team Rocket's Watchtower a 5. This is so strong. Then TM Machine. Search your deck for up to 3 Pokemon tool cards that have Technical Machine in their name. Put them in your hand. This, I mean, it's another way to get those key TMs out of your deck, especially if you're playing multiple of them. So it's solid that way, and you can get them without using your supporter for turn, like Arvin or Guzmahala, so that is kind of cool. I think you have to be playing at least 2 TMs to make this worth it, though. I don't know. Maybe that's not true. It is good, though. You just get to search just another out to get, your Turbo Energize, which is very, very good. So I'll give TM Machine a 3. Solid way if you can get this, your first or second turn of the game. So then we have Team Rocket's Energy. This can only be attached to Team Rocket's Pokemon, obviously. As long as it's attached, it provides 2 in any combination of Psychic or Dark Energy, right? So super busted with the Arbok, right? So you're only needing 2 energy attachments with the Arbok with this thing. So very, very strong energy for Team Rocket Pokemon. So I'm going to give Team Rocket's Energy a 5. This is very, very strong, especially, since Dark lost its DCEs, right? But this only goes on Team Rockets. but it helps with that energy economy for dark. So that is going to conclude it for this set. Let's move on to looking at the types. And nothing has changed really, I don't think. Um, I think that colorless and psychic are still on the top. I think psychic is better than colorless actually, but this is still debatable. Um, then yeah, A tier I still think is dark, lightning, water, dragon, and grass. Nothing has changed much for them. All of these got maybe a couple things to work with, except for dragon. Obviously, there were no dragon cards. And then I think the type that benefited the most from this set is actually fire. So I might move this up a little bit. Right, before I had it here, move it here. Yeah, could be even here, but yeah, and then fairy is still there, right? If we look at the archetypes now, the ones that benefited the most are dark spread, right? This benefited a lot from that Arbok. That Arbok is just a strong, strong card, right? So that's a big winner from this set. The other winners, where is it? Here it is. Fire Snipe, right? This improved a lot. Very, very solid. I think like one final push of like a consistency, and this could be here. Maybe it already is even. Like this is probably your best fire deck right now. So, yeah, I'll leave it here for now, but could be up here. Who knows? We'll see how this new meta plays out with people playing. But those are the two winners of this set. But really, nothing much has changed, right? So Psychic and Colorless still at the very top. Anyways, that is going to do it for this episode of GLC set review. Thank you so much for watching, and bye.